So hey guys, back with another video. Today we'll be doing what if Asta had metal magic, or I don't know what to call it really. Is it metal magic, or I don't really know what to call this what if. So okay. So Asta, like, how I'm gonna do this is pretty confusing. So the ships are gonna be as usual: Noel, Mimosa, and Neri as usual. But there's something different. I'm gonna need to tell you what their children gonna have, magic gonna have, because it will lead to a bigger plot story in the end of this whole thing, right? So the first one, which would be Noelle, because the shit that's probably gonna happen. So Noelle's child and Astra's child would have liquid adamantium magic, where Asta would have adamantium magic as its formal name, but it'd be meta magic. Anyways, it's basically liquid adamantium. It can't turn back into a solid like Asta's can, so it's kind of weaker than Asta's, but it has more versatility than Asta's had. The second would be Mimosa. Mimosa being having adamantium plant magic. This in reinforcing her plant so they could never be destroyed, if you know what adamantium is. So it's just making her magic, her or his magic unbreakable from Asta's and Mimosa's child. Let's go back to Neri. Neri has adamantium sealing magic. This makes her seals like silver and all of that, but it's unbreakable also because of the adamantium sealing and the antimatter sealing chains that she will have. So yeah. So let's get into the story. The story starts with the first Wizard King, and in this one, the first Wizard King would be marrying Lick's sister. I don't know if he had one, but Lick's sister. So it'll be go both ways. Lick would marry his sister, and the Wizard King would marry Lick's sister. So yeah. So then we time skip to see Asta's mom. Asta's mom magic is sealing and light magic. Asta's dad magic is metal magic, and yeah. And the elf woman that the first Wizard King, like the first Wizard King married was, let's say holy water magic. Right? Holy water magic. So then Asta was born with silver hair with and bright blue eyes, with a fair skin color, and that's technically it. Asta's magic affinity is called adamantium magic. It's the strongest metal can get, and is the strongest elemental on the face of the planet and maybe some other worlds. But he can also liquefy his magic and harden it to a solid point. Unlike Nozelle's magic, he is not weak to fire, nor other any or neither any other element. It is just overpowered. But the downfall of his magic is that it is very slow. But the worries, that's where the light magic came in. Being with Asta's mom being the queen of the Clover Kingdom, she had a light magic, and she passed that down to Asta, but it mixed with his father's magic, which would be meta magic. And if Asta's father turns out to be a demon, I'll just make him have demon metal magic, or whatever. I don't care. So Asta would have exactly that, and so that. So everything would pay off. Asta's mom would still put on the church and all of that. So let's get back into canon timeline. So Asta would be sitting in front of Sister Lily, learning how to read, and Asta was a very quick learner and learned how to read. Learned how to read in the practically 1 hour. He learned to cook in 2, learned how to climb and do other basic stuff and clean in 3. So they noticed that he was a prodigy at a young age. Asta went on to doing this a lot. He went in the forest and using his adamantium metal to create a small ball of metal, or adamantium as we know it, and he would shoot it towards a bear and it would go through the bear's skull with like it was butter. And he would keep on doing this and skin the bears with his adamantium magic, using it to swirl all around the bear to cut off its skin and hair. And no, and fur, sorry, not hair. Damn it. So Asta would also have a necklace that had the 4 clovers on it with diamonds surrounding the clover. So it was obviously a pendant from his mother, so yeah. And it was a locket, but he could never open it. He didn't know why he could not. It showed that it was a locket, but he could never like open the locket to see what the picture was inside. So yeah. I only had a picture of him and a baby and his mother, but the other stuff was put in there too, so don't worry about it. So Asta found Neri at a very young age, and he had the idea to put mana to her. Just something in his head told him to do that. Neri turned into a girl around his age, maybe a little bit older, but his age all in all. He carried her back to the orphanage, and the orphanage, or the father, or the priest, took her into the orphanage. Asta kept on going fishing and doing household work, getting bread, just making sure the church was in good shape all the time. Asta was a very strong mage. He did not depend on his adamantium magic. Even though it was overpowered, he did not depend on it 100%. He still took the effort to go and train his body. So he would be the same would have the same strength he would in canon. So yeah. So he would have the same strength that he had in canon. The 2 kids in the orphanage that was old enough to recognize Asta always called Big Brother Asta, even though they knew that he wasn't their true big brother or anything. They still believed him as it. He took care of them. He took care of them and taught them magic control. Even though there were about 2, one was 2 and the other one was actually 1. And he just taught them magic control and how to sense mana. Nothing really serious. Just some of the basics. Asta, on the other hand, had very high mana control, and unbeknownst to him, he had a slight magic mutation or defect. He could take in anti-magic into his body without any implications on his magic. So that meant he could use the 5 clover Grimoire without anything happening to him. Okay. So Asta would one day decide to go towards the actual Clover Kingdom square of the Clover Kingdom. I don't know what they called it. And Neri would ask to go with him. Neri actually knows how old she is actually, and does have a liking towards Asta. And she knows she can't look over the 5D Grimoire anymore because she's a human now, so she can't do that anymore. But she knows she has wings, but they're not strong enough to like go and fly her human body yet. They need to grow along with her. So I know she can turn back into a bird in canon. She can turn back into a bird, but let's say she doesn't like to do that, and it takes a lot of mana for her to do that now, because she's a child, and she doesn't have her grimoire anymore. It's somewhere else, and it's in the where all the other grimoires was and all that shit. So she would go. So Asta would use his metal or adamantium magic to put a little pedestal for her, and he would travel at light speed or fly at light speed with Neri on the metal platform, and he would go towards the forest of the Clover Kingdom. Like always, like comment down below, guys. Eternal Prince Asta, because I always do it more with this. Like, just comment down Eternal Prince Asta down below. Just do that. Anyways, so they would fly and they would reach the they would reach they would reach the the forest. Asta and Neri would land and they would go towards the river or stream that was near there, and she would Neri would take off her shoes and Asta would take off her shoes and just let the water go on their foot and just sit there. Not too long, Asta would hear a branch, like a break, and you would look back and he would see Mimosa and Noel. Noel had silver hair, just like he did, but it was different. Now, guys, I would like you to know, Neri, Asta and Noel are not family. I know, no, does Noel has blue eyes? Anyways, it doesn't matter. She doesn't have, to me, she doesn't have blue eyes, but I'll look back. So, Asta's eyes are different, and his hair is different from hers. It's more silver and chrome than like hers. You can still see that it's kind of hair, but like I don't understand how to like. You could tell that they're not family members, but just how they look. But you could mix them if that Asta was in a picture and she was in a picture. You would think they're siblings, like far siblings. So like, yeah, not far siblings. Damn it, far relatives. Fuck. Anyways, Asta will look at Noel and Mimosa. They would blush because look at him, bro. Look at this picture. This man could take your girl and laugh about it later. So he would look at them and they would blush, and he would say hey, and they would say hey, and they would come and put their foot in the water too, just like they were doing. So then a few minutes later, Asta would just suddenly drop, and you could hear him snort. Neri would sigh and say again, and the Mimosa and Wawa asks like what's happening to him, like is he okay and stuff like that. Larry would said he's okay. He's just a very lazy person, and he doesn't. He basically he just didn't feel the need to tell you he was going to sleep, so he just went to sleep. So they look at him and say that he's that lazy. Yes, he is that lazy when he wants to be. They would sigh and they would look at him while he was sleeping. All three of them getting a blush. But yeah. Nightfall and Noel and Melissa would have to go back home along with Asta and Neri. And Asta would still do the platform for Neri to stand on or sit, whatever she wants to do. And they would fly towards back to Hall's village. They would get some like food, and so actually they're eating pretty good. I needed to notify guys of this. They're eating pretty good, like pretty good. So like, cause Asta's like bringing in fish and like beer and ox and all that shit. So they're eating good. They are not like eating stale fucking bread. I don't know how that bread was like rocks, bitch. I don't know how the fuck that is. That bread was rocks. I put that on God. I know they live in poverty, but bro, you can't afford like good bread. Like that bread looked like it was fucking rocks. I didn't even notice that there was like bread until I had to actually look at it and read the subtitles. That was fucking bread. I was like, hey, chill, bro. Why you eating rocks for? But then I realized it was bread. I was like, what the fuck? What kind of bread is that? Glad I was bread like that in my life. But then I understood they're in poverty, so like it's a hard truth for people in poverty. But that's about to become Wizard King, so he doesn't need to worry about stale bread though. Anyways, so they would get back home, they would eat some food, and
Asta and Neri would eat some food. Sister Lily would ask Asta how was his day because yeah, Asta does not like Sister Lily, but him and Sister Lily is like a mother mother son relationship going on there because she taught him how to read and all of that shit. So yeah, Asta stands up and goes to eat. Goes to his room, which is also Neri's room, and let's say there have two rooms. No, three rooms. So Asta. There's Asta and Neri's room. Then there's Yuno's and the other boy's room, and then there's Sister Lily's and the other girl's room, and then there's father's, and I think the baby. I don't know. I think there was a baby there. I don't know completely, but I think there's a baby that was there. But anyways, so yeah. So Asta goes back in his room and Neri lays down on their bed, and he lays down on their bed and rolls over and just falls asleep because remember Asta lazy AF and he ain't about effort. This man's got my personality. He ain't about no effort. So Asta would go. Asta would wake up in the morning, dust off himself, go to the lake and just wash off his body, and just bathe and all, and just put back on his clothes. He's just like wearing a white shirt and a pant and a black pants at this point. So like yeah, and he's just dusts himself off and he gets up and Neri goes and do her thing, takes off her black dress, takes off her undergarments and go takes a bath. Exactly what Asta did. Asta is just sitting down at the front of the church and just chilling. Like he letting the wind brush his hair, and he remembers that there were girls there, and he was like, "Hey, we should go back." And Neri and Asta was like, "I bet." And Asta still creates a platform. Neri gets on it. They go back to the forest. And just like they thought, Noel and Mimosa are there waiting on them. Asta comes down and brings the saucer, whatever that form you want, the pedestal to be. I don't know what the fuck that is, anyways. So they sit down and they start talking, and Noelle starts to talk about herself and says that she doesn't have great magic control, but she has a lot of mana. Mimosa says she's not the most she doesn't have her magic is not for attacks primarily, but she can still attack with her magic, but she's more along with healing, but she wants to be an attack mage. Neri says, at first I thought my magic was useless because it was sealing magic, but I realized that I could integrate it in many different things. And Asta, it would come to Asta, and Asta would say, I kind of don't want to say this because it might seem like I'm bragging a bit, but I'll just say it anyways. I have perfect mana control. I can control my magic to the absolute degree. I can use spells without my Grimoire, high level spells without my Grimoire, but I still need my Grimoire to do certain spells. But I have this adaptability to, for when I'm thinking of something, I can, if when I think of a spell can just appear in my mind and I can do it. That's it. And I can have a high amount of smell, because as in I can smell a lot of things. I can even smell so good that I can hear other people's technically smell people's heartbeat, but he's gonna say here so it doesn't really freak them out, because Wolfram can smell people's heartbeats. Well, he can smell people's heartbeats. He tries to explain it in a more something that makes no sense, but he just blends out says he starts trying to simplify and just says basically I can just smell up I can smell your fucking heartbeat. I don't really care. And they were first freaked out, but they were realizing that he was trying to explain it, but he couldn't find a way, and they understood because they couldn't find a way how to say that either. So hey, and make it make sense. So they were like, I bet, and he was like, and I have my magic, and it looks like it's a fused magic affinity. It looks like one of my parents had both. One of my parents had metal magic, and the other one had light magic. And somewhere down the line, one of my like ancestors or something had water magic, which he was exactly right. One of his ancestors did has water magic, holy water magic, and to be exact. So lightning cannot like, well, it wouldn't affect this one anyways. And little does like she know, but the well actually has holy water magic, so lightning cannot. So if lightning came in contact with this water, it would do nothing. So like yeah, and she can turn her water into ice, but she can't manipulate the ice itself because she could just like. If you understand what I'm saying, It's pretty confusing even to me, but let's go along with it. Asta would go. Asta would stand up. Well, Asta would drop, and just like last time, he would go to sleep because this nigga doesn't give one fuck. I just said, oi, 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 oi. Fuck you talking about? I go to sleep. And he goes to sleep. Asta wakes up at least an hour later, and they are still talking. Actually, looking at Asta, just like looking at him blushing. And Asta wakes up in an hour, which they didn't expect. He usually takes 4 hours to get right back up, but he takes 1 hour. And he says, "Let's explore the forest." And they decide to like they love Asta at this point, but they don't technically know what love is. So like because they're kind of still like 4 or 5. I don't know what age they are, but like they're still around the age. They might be older, they might be younger. I don't really mind nor care. So they would go into the like to the they would go into the forest and like they're going to the forest and they're going damn it, they're going to the forest like deep in the forest, and Asta would fall into something like a pit, and he would end up in this like abandoned cave or something, and he would go into the cave and he would see a book, a really ragged up book at that. He would take out the book and climb back out levitating using his magic because he can fly at this point because he's goaded, right? So he comes back up, which they were actually a little afraid of him dying or something. But they see that he came back up, and he brought the book, and it said summoning fairy spirits, and Asta was so Noelle thinks that Asta can't read because she knows he's a commoner, so she takes the book and says that she'll read it just for Asta, but she doesn't know that Asta can't read, but he doesn't care. He allows her to go ahead and do what she wants to do. She reads the book and she couldn't read it. Like she did read it, but nothing happened. No, Mimosa tried it, nothing happened. Neri tried it because she can't read, and nothing happened. But then it came to Asta. Asta took the book and bit his finger, which he didn't understand. He put it in a circle and started farming kanji. He told them it was not for you to read, it for you to spell out, and then to read it. And start writing kanji, or the letters that were on the book. Then he dripped his blood with bits of his mana inside of the book, inside of the middle of the circle, and then start saying the words. And a bright light came, and a metal queen fairy came out of the portal of sorts and saw Asta. Asta, still looking like a goated motherfucker, she instantly gravitated toward him because he also has some sort of metal magic, which is actually stronger than hers, that she can realize it as, and she would go to him and says, "I am your I am your slave technically, but I'm not gonna use the term. I don't want to use the term slave, but she kind of is his slave. I just don't want to use that term. So she will call him master and all that shit. But he also would be kind of flustered at that, but he wouldn't show in his face because he's not about that life. So he would say, "I bet," and he would tell Mimosa to bite her blood. Well, no, to bite her finger and draw blood, and put her little bit of mana into that blood. She would then do so, and a plant spirit, not a plant fairy, came out and went towards the Mimosa. Then it was Neri's turn, and a ceiling fairy came towards Neri. And then Noelle tried it. She had a harder time because she can't control her magic that well, but her fairy will help her with that, so it doesn't really matter to her. So she tries it and she gets it, and she gets water. A water fairy comes out and greets her. Well, just for the basic analysis of all of them, they all of them kind of look the same, and well, not the queen, the metal queen. She doesn't look the same as all of them, but all the other three fairies kind of look the same, and they asked them why they do so. Basically, they all look like Tinkerbell, like, you know, Tinkerbell, Disney Tinkerbell, her. Yeah, her. They technically look like Tinkerbell. So they asked her why they look so alike, and they would say all three of them are all at the same time. They would say they're triplets. They are triplets, or sisters, whatever you want to say. So they would understand and say that's cool and just deal with it. So then Asta would look at her like the metal queen, the metal fairy queen. So then Asta would ask her, so what's yours? So what are you to them? I am their older sister of sorts, and I'm I'm the metal magic queen, fairy, whatever you want to say. My name is, y'all name the fairies. I don't have time to like do effort for that, so I deal with it. So she would have a dress, like a dress that went down to her below her knees, and it would be silver. She would have two fairy wings at the back, and she would have a metal crown, like crown made out of metal on her head, and she would have silver hair, just like Asta. But it actually looked like metal, like it straight up looked like metal. And Asta not put her on this, but she didn't really answer and just said, "Time to go." Time to go, and she went into Asta's heart of sorts, or spirit, whatever you want to use. So they all, that's what they all did, and they told them before they went into their souls that they would need time to rejuvenate their magic, and the book that you just like had will burn. It will burn and explode. So you need to get away from that book quick. So Asta would throw it back down the hole, and just like she said, boom, the book would explode, and they would go back to the water and talk, and that where they would go back home and all of that. Timeskip. They've been doing this off and on, and the fairy time to time would train them, so they all of them would learn Mana Zone and some basic magic techniques. I was still learning these magic techniques pretty easy, given higher level magic techniques to do and exercises to do, but he would easily master them every single time. This is where Noelle would finally ask Asta if she's family to him, and Asta would say no, and the only family thing he had belonged to his family, and he would take out a necklace. When Noelle and Mimosa saw that necklace, they were in complete utter shock when they saw that, and they looked at Asta, looked back at the necklace, looked at Asta again, looked back at that necklace again, and looked back at Asta, and said, "You're the prince?" And Asta would look at them with the blank face and he would tell them, "Want that back again?" And they would say it again, "Are you the prince?" And Asta would say, "I don't know, like, why would you think that?" And they would say, "Well, that's the queen's necklace that she gave to her son. Like, everyone in, like, the kingdom knows about that. Like, how the fuck do you not know about that?" And Asta would look at her like, Nani? What the fuck? What the fuck you say, bitch? And she would tell, just to make sure it's authentic. He would ask her to place blood on that necklace of yours, or locket, whatever you want to use. Asa would bite his finger again, and he would draw blood, and it would go onto the necklace. And just like she said, the necklace would open, which he never opened before. But Asa was like, Nani? and a hologram figure would come out, and it would be Asta's mother, and she would explain what happened and why she left off, and tell him about her disease and her magic mutation thing that awakened in her later life, and tell her all about how she so wanted to keep him, and how she could not go back to the kingdom, and all of this, and just apologize profusely, which Asa noted was something that he got from her, because he always apologized a lot when he did something wrong, which he kind of never does stuff wrong, but he been caught slipping by Sister Lily sometimes. He's been caught slipping. He's not perfect. He been caught slipping. So they would go back, and they would go back to the house. Asta would have to absorb all of this. Him being the prince, him being his mother loving him and never wanted to abandon him. How this disease of some sorts or mutation ruined his life, and I had to accept that he was a noble. No, matter of fact, he was royalty. He was the highest royalty in the Clover Kingdom at this time, because everyone knows that the king that they have now is not like like a direct descendant of any of the recent kings or queens. He's like just a standing for now until they could find the prince, because they do know the prince is alive, but they don't know where he is, and that's a problem. But Asta told Noel, and most don't say anything since they love Asta so bad they will not say anything to anyone about it, and they wouldn't even let it slip. So Asta would go home, and he'd have to absorb all of this. But in the middle of the night, his necklace would start glowing, and a chest would just drop out of it, hitting Asta's legs, and it would hurt him like a lot. Asta would wake up instantly from all this pressure added to his legs, and he would take up the chest and put it in the corner and open the chest with the key that was on top of it. In there would have like millions of gold coins, which one gold coin makes equals 60 Yule, I think it was 60 Yule, 60,000 Yule. So yeah, Asta loaded. So he'd close back the chest, lock it again, and go back to sleep. He would tell Neri about this later, and this is where we have a big time skip to where Asta's 16. I'm aging up one more, and everybody one more. So Neri's 16, Normosa's 16, Noella's 16, Asta's 16, and everybody that was around Asta's age is 16. So they would go for the Grimoire acceptance ceremony, where Asta, Mimosa, and Noelle would go to where they went, and now Asta would do his. Now, would still get his Grimoire, but Noelle and time was time for Neri, and Neri got a 3 clover Grimoire, I believe she had. Guys, comment down below if you want her to give her a 4-leaf Grimoire or the 3-leaf Grimoire. Or just no, since they have spirits, I'm gonna give them all 4 leaves. So Noel's gonna have a 4-leaf, Mimosa's gonna have a 4-leaf, and Neri's gonna have a 4-leaf. So then there was 2 4-leaves that came down. So Neri got one. So yeah. So Neri kind of doesn't look like a commoner. She doesn't look like it. Her dress looks like a royal's dress. So no one really. So people believe she's a royal, and Neri is a royal if you didn't know. But like I think all of her family members are kind of dead because she's this old. How old is Neri again? Like is she's at least 100, like at least 100 years old or something. Comment down below how old Neri is. I find out for me, because like is Neri 100, or like she old younger than that? I don't know. But all I know, she's not anywhere near Asta's age. Well, at this point in time, she is around Asta's age, but practically she's not, or technically she's not. She's kind of older than that, but like her age, her physical age is 16 at this point, but like she's not. So I don't know what to tell you, bruh. So then Asta's Grimoire. But then 2 Grimoires would come from the sky. And this one would be Anti-Magic Grimoire and a 4-leaf silver. A silver and gold Grimoire. and when they were close to Asta, they both absorbed into one, and became a silver grimoire with golden markings around it, with the clover being gold. Then on the back of the grimoire, it had a five-leaf clover with the same pattern, but it had a demonic-looking hand, which is actually just Libe's hand, reaching for the five-leaf clover with red markings and like veins and stuff like that on it. Asta would pick it up, and both people would see the four-leaf and the five-leaf at the back, so they would not know what to say about it. Asta doesn't look like a commoner either, because he has on a white shirt with golden markings at the ends of the sleeve and the end of the shirt and the collar. So like he kind of doesn't, and he has on black pants with black boots that's kind of tucked in, and the pants is kind of tucked into the boots, and the boots has like silver laces and all of that. So he doesn't like kind of doesn't look like a royal noble. Kind of doesn't look like a commoner. So yeah, and he has like two wristbands on, like two pure metal wristbands, which are just adamantium magic wristbands. So like yeah. So I'm gonna off this what if like so this is kind of like the end, but I'm gonna like go a little bit further, but it's not the end, but like it's kind of like the end. So like I have a few things to cover, and then I'm like done. So they would go outside, and I still would kill the train mate. So it doesn't really matter. So like I'm not really gonna go into that. I also would reach back home and just go into his bed and lay down on his bed. Neri would lay down on it, would get on top of Asta and kiss Asta. Now between this time skip, Asta, Mimosa, and Noel have gained a relationship and are going to love each other. Well, Asta being so dense that he didn't even notice it for like a few five, at least five to, at least for a long time. He didn't notice it. So they eventually gave up and had to tell him that they loved him, and then he understood, and then he said yes to all of them and all that shit. So she would get on top of Asta and kiss him with one of her horns, like poking his forehead, which he would tell her, and he would like kind of roll her over and kiss her, and he would start to get a little further, kissing her neck, and then he would hear a knock on the door. He would instantly get up and just like open the door, and it would be Sister Lily, and telling him how proud she was and all of that, and she would go back to the stairs, and then Asta would lock the door. And then Neri would say we would have time to do that when we get to our squads, our Magic Night squad, so you can take a breather. Asta would thank her, and he would like sit down and open his grimoire. The first spell he sees would be Antimantium Magic. Adamantium Magic. Adamantium 3. Antimantium Tree. Deadly Leaves. Basically, this technique creates a tree out of adamantium, and the leaves of the tree would come off, and it could shoot towards its target. And since adamantium is overpowered and is infused with anti magic, also being a part of the grimoire now, would instantly it would kill you. The second spell would be adamantium magic. Heavenly swords. Basically, is like swords coming down from the heavens, like coming down from the sky, forming in the sky, and like coming down. It's like licks attack, swords of conviction, or something like that. It's like that. Third spell he would see would be Adamantium Star Tornado. It basically makes a storm out of liquefied adamantium with blades inside of it, so anyone caught in it would instantly die from the blade closing in on them and killing them. Adamantium Magic Unbreakable Shield. Just as it sounds, it makes a shield out of adamantium, with adamantium being invincible or unbreakable, just how it sounds. An Antimantium Magic Unbreakable Dome, which is basically the same thing but could protect multiple people. Then the fourth spell, I think, the fifth or something, would be Antimantium Magic Adamantium Piercing Spikes. It's basically spikes that are made of adamantium that can pierce their enemy and kill them, or or disable them. Depends on how the caster wants to use it. The other spell would be adamantium magic. Un- Unbreakable chains. Basically, it's chains made out of adamantium, which is unbreakable. Adamantium. The other spell would be adamantium magic. Deadly flowers. Basically, the flower he makes flowers out of adamantium, and then they fold into like sharp. They fold in, and then they can be shoot towards a target, ultimately killing their target. The other spell you would see with adamantium magic, adamantium piercing bullet. Basically, making bullets out of adamantium and shooting towards a target, ultimately killing its target. Adamantium. Adamantium magic. Adamantium. Deadly spears. Basically, spears made out of titanium. Adamantium. Wait, is it titanium or adamantium? Adamantium, yes. Adamantium. Damn it, I just got lost. So other spell you would see would call adamantium magic. Adamantium clone. Basically making a double of himself. Other spell you would see with adamantium snake. Making a snake with the adamantium, you could create them big or small. Depends on how you want to do it. And the other spell would be adamantium magic. Adamantium lion. Basically making a lion out of adamantium that you could either ride or send towards someone to kill them. Other spell you would see would be adamantium wings. Basically, wings made out of adamantium, which he could use to fly and protect himself by shooting adamantium feathers at his intended target. Other spell you would see would be adamantium whip. Basically, making a whip out of adamantium, binding his enemy or cutting off his enemy's harm while using this adamantium. Adamantium. Absorbing typhoon. Basically, any magic that's directed towards him, you can use absorbing typhoon to absorb the magic into basically a typhoon made out of adamantium. And his other spell would have adamantium override, being able to absorb, attach, and disconfigure other things to make and overwrite its molecular structure and kind of make something new or add on something to others, to another something. Other spell would be called adamantium dragon. You can basically made out a dragon made out of adamantium and either ride it or send it towards someone to kill them. The other spell you would see would be adamantium magic. Deep forest emerging, making a forest out of adamantium, trapping or killing his opponent. The other spell you would see would be adamantium. Deadly kunai, making kunai out of adamantium, just like the name expires, making it deadly and killing the other person. Adamantium execution cage. Basically making a cage out of adamantium that has blades and kunais inside of the cage that can come out and kill their enemy if the user so wills it. And the other spell to be called adamantium moon slices. Basically making slices of adamantium comes toward their opponent and cleaning their head or any parts of their body clean off. And the other spell would be adamantium magic, adamantium guardian, making a golem of sorts out of adamantium, being able to protect being able to protect their master. Now this would be the end of this video, guys. I hope you guys are okay with it. Comment down below and how you feel about the what if. Comment down, comment down below. Eternal Prince Asta, and that'd be it. Just do that, and see you guys later.